I was wrestling with a stack of folding chairs for our HOA meeting when a sound like a firecracker cut through the chatter of the Oakwood Community Center. A piercing slap, the kind that makes your head snap around, echoed off the cinderblock walls. Karen Mitchell, our HOA president and resident dictator in a blazer, had just hauled off and smacked Margaret Thompson, a 78-year-old widow who dared ask for help reaching a shelf. Yeah, you read that right. Welcome to suburban Columbus, Ohio, where the coffee's lukewarm, the rules are sacred, and Karen's got a mean right hand. It was 2 p.m. on Saturday, March 12, 2025, and the community center's meeting room was buzzing like a VFW hall before a fish fry. Tables groaned under platters of grocery store cookies and a coffee urn that smelled like it had been brewing since the Bush administration. A "Community Rules" banner hung crookedly on the wall, screaming Karen's obsession with order in bold Comic Sans. High above, a shelf held extra supplies, paper plates, napkins, the good stuff reachable only if you were an NBA hopeful or had a step stool. Spoiler, Margaret had neither. I'm Jack Harper, 55, retired firefighter and HOA board member, the guy who traded saving lives for wrangling Karens. Dressed in my trusty navy polo and jeans, I clutched a clipboard with the meeting agenda and a phone ready for 911, because in this neighborhood, you never know when a spat over lawn ornaments will turn into a cage match. I was halfway through aligning chairs when Margaret, sweet as your grandma after church, hobbled over to Karen with her cane tapping the linoleum. Margaret, bless her, is the kind of lady who'd bake you cookies just for mowing her lawn. Arthritis had her hands gnarled like old oak, and that cane was her lifeline. She spotted a box of paper plates on that sky-high shelf and, seeing Karen nearby in her tailored blazer and oversized sunglasses perched like a tiara, figured she'd ask for a hand. Big mistake. Karen, who probably alphabetizes her spice rack, was fussing with her leather purse, muttering about standards. Margaret's polite, "Excuse me, could you grab those plates for me?" hit Karen like a personal insult. "Get it yourself." Karen snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. The room didn't quite freeze, folks were too busy sneaking extra cookies, but a few heads turned. Margaret, undeterred, explained her arthritis, her tone soft and patient, like she was soothing a cranky toddler. "I can't quite reach, and I'd hate to fall." Reasonable, right? Wrong. Karen's face twisted like she'd sniffed sour milk, and before anyone could blink, she reared back and slapped Margaret across the face, barking, "Stop pestering me, you nuisance." The crowd gasped like they'd seen a ref botch a call in the Super Bowl. Margaret stumbled, her cane clattering, one hand flying to her cheek. The scent of burnt coffee hung in the air, mixing with the collective shock. I dropped my clipboard, already moving toward them, my firefighter instincts kicking in. Karen stood there, unapologetic, her sunglasses glinting under the fluorescence like she'd just won a duel. The nerve of this woman. Think every entitled HOA horror story from Reddit's r/entitled people, but with better hair and worse impulse control. I got to Margaret first, steadying her as she blinked back tears. "You okay, Margaret?" I asked, keeping one eye on Karen, who was now huffing like a bull ready to charge. Margaret nodded, shaky but tough as nails. The room was a mix of whispers and glares, with a few folks already pulling out phones because if it's not on video, did it even happen? Security cameras hummed quietly in the corners, and I made a mental note, those tapes were gonna be gold. Karen's stunt wasn't just a slap, it was a declaration of war on decency. Me? I'm no saint, but I've got a soft spot for folks like Margaret, who just want to live their lives without some power-tripping busybody turning a paper plate request into a cage match. My blood was up, and I wasn't about to let this slide. Karen's need to rule the roost had finally gone too far, and I was ready to call her bluff. Karen's slap was the spark that lit a dumpster fire. At 2:05 p.m., the Oakwood Community Center, thick with the stench of stale coffee and shock, turned into a pressure cooker. I stepped between Margaret and Karen, my navy polo sticking to my back from the tension. "Karen, you just assaulted an elderly woman. Apologize and step back now," I said, my voice low but firm, like I was calling out a rookie for a dumb move. Karen, clutching her leather purse like a lifeline, sneered, her oversized sunglasses still perched on her head. Apologize? She harassed me. She's disrupting the event, she barked, pointing at Margaret, who was rubbing her cheek, her cane trembling in her grip. Margaret, voice soft but steady, tried to explain. I only asked for help with the plates. My arthritis, Karen cut her off, eyes rolling like slot machines. Lazy and attention-seeking, that's what you are, she snapped, loud enough to rattle the community rules banner. The crowd's murmurs sharpened, like a bar when the jukebox dies mid-song. Lisa, our treasurer, pushed through, flats clicking on the linoleum. Let's all calm down, she urged, hands raised like she was herding cats. Bill, in his faded Reds cap, wasn't having it. He whipped out his phone, filming, muttering, "This is unbelievable." Sarah, with a mom bear vibe, knelt beside Margaret, whispering, "You're okay, we've got you." The room was splitting, half stunned, half ready to throw hands. Karen went full scorched earth. She yanked her phone from her purse, its camera beeping like a warning shot. "I'm documenting your bias, Jack," she declared, aiming at me and Sarah. "You're favoring her and neglecting resident safety." She swung accusations like a sledgehammer, claiming I was unfit for the board. "I'll report you for abuse of power," she shrieked, her blazer flapping. "Abuse of power? I'm just trying to keep this potluck from becoming a crime scene." Sarah shot to her feet, eyes blazing. "How dare you touch Margaret," she snapped, her voice slicing through the chatter. The crowd's whispers faded, all eyes on Karen, now filming like she was directing a conspiracy flick. "She's a liability," Karen shouted, pointing at Margaret again. "A danger to our community." Margaret looked more confused than dangerous, like a grandma caught in a bar fight. Bill's phone stayed steady, his gruff narration picking up. "She's losing it, folks." Lisa tried again, voice tight. "Karen, let's talk this out privately." But Karen was too busy playing martyr to a crowd that smelled her nonsense. The paper plates on that high shelf, the whole reason for this mess, sat untouched, mocking us. The step stool nearby might as well have been on Mars. My pulse was hammering, but I kept my cool. Karen's need to dominate was spiraling, and I wasn't letting her steamroll Margaret or us. I'd seen her type before, all bluster until the heat hit. "Karen, you're out of line," I said, stepping closer, my clipboard forgotten. "You hurt someone. Own it." But owning it wasn't in her playbook. She was filming her manifesto, oblivious to the security cameras recording her meltdown. The air was thick, the kind of tense that makes you glad you've got 911 on speed dial. Karen's accusations were wild, but her next move was about to turn this room into a circus. Stick around, this potluck's getting spicier than the chili nobody touched. At 2:10 p.m., the Oakwood Community Center, littered with cookie crumbs and the faint whiff of burnt coffee, felt like a powder keg. Karen pivoted to the crowd, her leather purse swinging like a wrecking ball. "We need to stand against freeloaders like her," she bellowed, jabbing a finger at Margaret, who sat clutching her cane, looking as threatening as a doily. "She's exploiting our resources." Karen's sunglasses wobbled on her head as she ranted. "Exploit resources?" Margaret just wanted paper plates, not a hostile takeover. I stepped forward, my navy polo damp with sweat. "Karen, you're out of control." "Leave now," I said, citing the HOA's conduct rules like a referee calling a foul. Her response? A scoff that could curdle milk. "You're abusing your power, Jack," she shot back, her phone still filming me like I was the villain in her soap opera. The community rules banner sagged, as if embarrassed by the scene. Lisa tried to play peacemaker, her voice steady. "Let's take this outside, Karen," she suggested, but Karen waved her off like a fly. Bill, in his Reds cap, kept his phone rolling, narrating, "She's losing it, folks," his voice barely hiding his glee. Sarah helped Margaret to a chair, murmuring, "You're safe now." Mike, our security guard in a khaki uniform, pushed through, his radio crackling like static before a storm. Lisa had called him in, and his no-nonsense stare locked onto Karen. Then Karen went nuclear. She stormed to a table, snatched a stack of HOA flyers, those glossy wastes of ink touting neighborhood pride, and hurled them into the air. Papers fluttered like startled pigeons, scattering across the linoleum, startling a guy sneaking a third cookie. "This is the disorder I'm talking about," Karen shrieked, her purse thumping against her hip. "Expel her from the community." She meant Margaret, now sipping water Sarah grabbed, looking more baffled than banished. The crowd's murmurs swelled into shouts, some calling Karen out, others just wanting their snacks back. Mike's radio buzzed as he stepped closer. "Ma'am, you're disrupting the event. Step outside," he said, his tone flat but firm. I backed him up, voice carrying over the chaos. "You're the one causing disorder, Karen. Go." But Karen, drunk on her own authority, doubled down, her blazer flapping like a matador's cape. The paper plates on that high shelf, the spark of this fiasco, sat untouched, while the step stool mocked us all. Bill's footage didn't miss a beat, capturing every flyer's descent. Lisa hovered, still hoping for a civilized end, but the room was past that. Sarah's glare could have melted steel, and even the quieter residents were shifting, their patience gone. The security cameras hummed overhead, cataloging Karen's unraveling. My heart pounded, but I'd seen worse in burning buildings. Karen's need to rule was torching her reputation, and I wasn't letting her drag Margaret or us down with her. Karen's flyer stunt was a spectacle, but her refusal to back down was about to make her a legend for all the wrong reasons. Hang tight, this potluck's turning into a roast. At 2:20 p.m., the Oakwood Community Center's meeting room, thick with the scent of spilled coffee and outrage, became Karen's stage and our breaking point. She planted herself at the exit, gripping a folding chair to block the door, shouting, "Nobody leaves until she's removed for disrupting our event." She meant Margaret, safely tucked in a corner with Sarah, her cane steady but her eyes wide. The crowd groaned as Karen knocked over a snack table in her frenzy, chips and cups scattering, her leather purse hitting the linoleum with a thud, unnoticed in her meltdown. My heart was racing, but I'd seen chaos before. This was just a fire with better hair. I dialed 911, reporting Karen's assault and disturbance, citing Ohio's assault and disorderly conduct codes. "We need officers at Oakwood Community Center, now," I said, voice steady. I signaled Mike, our security guard, to secure the area. His radio crackled as he stepped toward Karen. "Ma'am, you're under arrest if you don't leave," he warned, his tone like gravel. Karen wasn't listening. She grabbed her phone from the floor, its beep cutting through the crowd's shouts, and started filming me, her blazer flapping. "You're orchestrating a conspiracy, Jack," she yelled, her sunglasses slipping to her neck. "I'm exposing your corruption." Corruption? I was just keeping her from turning this HOA meeting into a riot. Bill, in his Reds cap, kept filming, narrating, "She's gone too far." Lisa guided Margaret to a safer spot, while Sarah stayed close, her glare locked on Karen. Tom, a neighbor, joined Bill, blocking Karen's path like a linebacker. The room was a circus. The "Community Rules" banner hung limply, the high shelf of paper plates loomed like a silent instigator, and the step stool stood uselessly nearby. Karen's accusations grew wilder, her voice shrill over the air conditioning's hum. "You're all complicit in this chaos," she screamed, gesturing at the crowd, now shouting back, their patience long gone. Mike radioed for police backup, his voice calm but urgent, while the security cameras captured every unhinged second. I stepped closer, polo clinging to my back. "Karen, you're the one causing chaos." "Step away," I said, my instincts screaming to contain the blaze. But Karen, fueled by desperation, clung to her chair barricade, her need to dominate blinding her to the consequences. Bill's footage was live on X, and I could feel the weight of those security tapes, ready to bury her. The crowd's shouts drowned out the clatter of fallen snacks, and I knew we were one spark from a brawl. Karen's barricade was a spectacle, but the police were about to crash her one-woman show. Stick around, this potluck's about to serve up justice. At 2:30 p.m., as police sirens wailed outside the Oakwood Community Center, Karen's tantrum slammed headfirst into justice. The meeting room, strewn with chips and crumpled flyers, felt like the aftermath of a bar fight. Officers Smith and Lee stormed in, boots thudding on the linoleum. They zeroed in on Bill, who handed over his phone video, live on X with hashtags #HOA and #JusticeForMargaret racking up thousands of views. The officers reviewed the clip, then checked the security camera footage, confirming Karen's assault and disorderly conduct. "Ma'am, you're under arrest," Officer Smith said, citing Ohio's assault and disorderly conduct codes, his voice flat as the coffee gone cold. Karen, her sunglasses tangled in her hair, flailed as the handcuffs clanked shut. "This is persecution," she screeched, her blazer askew, her purse and phone scooped up by Officer Lee. The crowd erupted in applause, chanting, "Good riddance," like they'd seen a game-winning touchdown. Sarah, hovering near Margaret, flashed me a grateful nod, while Margaret, shaken but steady with her cane, managed a small smile. I grabbed a chair and water for Margaret. "You okay?" I asked, kneeling beside her. She nodded, eyes brighter. "Thank you, Jack," she whispered. I turned to the crowd, raising a hand. "Thanks for standing up, folks. Let's keep looking out for each other." Mike, in his khaki uniform, gave a curt nod, his radio silent now that backup had arrived. Bill, grinning like he'd won the lottery, kept filming, his ex-post blowing up with comments roasting Karen's meltdown. Karen's arrest hit Columbus like a bombshell. Her real estate firm suspended her pending investigation, leaving her HOA presidency in tatters. The snack table's debris crunched underfoot as officers led her out, her protests fading against the crowd's cheers. The "Community Rules" banner sagged, the high shelf of paper plates untouched, the step stool a silent witness. Those security cameras had caught every second of Karen's downfall. My pulse was still racing, but there was satisfaction in seeing Karen face the music. She'd hurt an elderly woman and turned a potluck into a circus, but the community had her number. Bill's video was spreading faster than barbershop gossip, and this wasn't the end of Karen's story, just the peak of her crash. Karen's arrest was dramatic, but her legacy was just starting to ripple. Hang tight, this tale's got more to serve. Karen's slap didn't just sting Margaret, it sparked the community's crusade for kindness. By April 2025, the Oakwood Community Center had shaken off the chaos of that holiday, but its echoes lingered like fresh paint in the meeting room. As Jack, I'd watched Karen turn a paper plate request into a viral disaster. Now, the dust was settling, and the neighborhood was stronger. Karen's reckoning was swift. She pleaded guilty to assault and disorderly conduct, slapped with a $1,500 fine and 100 hours of community service at a senior center. Poetic irony for someone who'd struck a 78-year-old over a simple ask. The HOA ousted her as president and banned her from events, her purse, phone, and sunglasses returned via police, likely gathering dust in her disgraced condo. Bill's X video, with hashtags #HOAKaren and #JusticeForMargaret, hit 200,000 views, comments tearing into Karen's entitlement and cheering Margaret's resilience. Local news interviewed me and Sarah, Margaret's fierce defender, about our stand against tyranny. Reddit's r/entitled people ate it up. Karen's real estate career tanked, clients fleeing faster than neighbors from her HOA meetings. The HOA thrived. We hosted a community unity event, the room alive with laughter and clinking glasses. Banners fluttered, proclaiming, "Together we stand." Margaret, now 79, stood tall with her cane, accepting a plaque for her courage, her voice steady as she urged, "Respect doesn't cost a thing." I got a plaque too, but the real reward was the crowd roaring for her. We launched a senior assistance program, ensuring no one like Margaret would struggle for a paper plate again, the high shelf and step stool now relics of a bad day. Standing by the restocked snack table, no chips on the floor this time, I reflected. My mom had fought arthritis, her spirit fierce, and protecting Margaret felt like honoring her. Karen's meltdown had galvanized us, proving one bully's tantrum could forge stronger bonds. The security cameras, once silent witnesses, now watched over a community that valued every neighbor. Love this story of justice and grit? I said to the crowd. Share it with your buddies, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe for more tales of standing tall. The applause rolled through, warm and full, the kind that makes you believe in people again. In a neighborhood where every face matters, Karen's outburst only tightened our ties. This community is for everyone, I said, my polo crisp, clipboard long retired. Let's keep it kind.